I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining for this Product People event. And before starting, please remember that you can watch this stream on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitch. Also, a reminder that this talk will be recorded. So if you want to send it afterwards to your peers, other PMs, just head to our YouTube channel, copy the link, and send it away. We also have a Slido running for you to give us any insights, ask us any questions, or to the speaker directly. The code for Slido is on the screen. It's 7547953, or you can scan the QR code and it will lead you to the questions and the Q&A. Today, we are going to talk about a personal favorite topic of mine. I have had the pleasure to work on this as well this year. We will be talking about localization, and the title of the talk is Unlock the AI-powered self-managed localization growth engine. And we will be hearing from, dare I say, a friend, Sören von Sebelin, who is a lead product manager at Lokalise, and he's driving a strategic initiative in AI-powered localization. Zoran has 15 years of experience within digital products, scaling game studios from 100 to 1,400 employees, being a product freelancer in MarTech, deep tech SaaS. He has done everything, and he blends deep technical knowledge, UX expertise, and data-driven product pragmatism. I can also attest to this that Zoran is ego free. Everybody loves working with him. He has a straightforward approach and he focuses really on driving end to end initiatives and removing obstacles throughout the way. I am your host today. I'm Ubi or Ubed. I have been working with product people. I also have 5 years of product manager experience in localization industry as well as physical security physical access security, and some wellness related uh, startups, I would say. Um, what we do at Product People, just a quick recap: we are the product management or interim product management service provider within Europe. We have a community of 60,000 members, all related to product. We also curate free events, both online and in-person events within Europe in different cities. Some of the bigger cities include London, Barcelona, Berlin, and Stockholm. And we are always hiring and looking for great product talent. So if you're looking for a job, feel free to apply. Before we start, here's a quick icebreaker, a very important question. It's on the screen, but I can also read it out. If you can go and scan the QR code, you will land on the question itself, and then you can choose one of the options. The question is, who is currently handling localization at your company? And some of the options are: we don't localize, we only use our love language, or we outsource it, it's somebody else's problem. We have got an in-house localization dream team, and if you do, I want to hear about it. We let AI handle it and pray, or I'm not sure, it's a mix of above. I'm going to keep this screen for a few more seconds, just so that you can have the chance to scan the QR code. And then I will go over to the next. So here is Zoran. Take it away. It's your time to shine.
Hello, everyone. Hello, party peoples. Thanks, Uwe. It's been a pleasure working with you, actually. All right, let's get started. Hallo alle zusammen, mein Name ist Sören von Sebelin und ich freue mich heute, euch etwas über Lokalisierung zu erzählen. Ja, und vor allem, wie man quasi vor allem durch AI und Automatisierung das Ganze sich quasi komplett selbst managen lässt. All right, so that was the German version, and I hope you understood me or you didn't. I would love to hear from you in the chats. I can actually see those from what I know. Who of you understood me this far? Everyone left the room. Okay, not many this far. So Obviously, there's an agenda. No worries. You could use this time to look at this agenda. I'm going to walk you through this step by step. Don't worry about this. I just tried to make a point. This presentation obviously is going to be in English. I'm speaking English with you here. No worries. I want to make sure you understand me. And I want to make sure that we connect, that you understand me well enough, because what else do companies want to be doing these days if they don't want to make their customers happy? Obviously, they want to connect. Um, so, oh, hey, Adrian. Nice to hear that you did. So yes, if you want to connect with your customers, obviously speak in their language. Um, and yeah, just a quick roundabout. Happy to be here. Sören von Sebelin, mein Name, but Ubi, you already took that one away. So when we agree that language is basically the source essence to start connecting, it's about copy and whatnot. It's surprising that still so many companies didn't offer their product or their web pages, everything just in one or two or sometimes three languages. And um, the fact, for as a matter of fact, it's actually that's not even where it stops. This is not um, where we actually should be stopping, because language is only the one part. The other part is that you also need to learn how to adapt for the local tastes or the cultural nuances, obviously cost structure and currencies on those local markets that you're trying to tailor your product to. I brought one example here where I believe the company is doing it actually quite well. This is McDonald's. And McDonald's, if you go into a McDonald's in India, I bet a few people in this call probably can tell what they see, what people will see when they go into a McDonald's in India and try to find a Big Mac. They probably won't find it, at least not beef based, but actually it's going to be called Maharaja Mac, and it's going to be more focusing on chicken. So out of some reason, Indians seem to not want to eat beef. So McDonald's understand that, so they try to adopt and adapt their offering to the different markets. They don't assume what works on one market works in the other. But let's also talk about the hard facts, the numbers. So I'm talking here to other product managers. We like numbers. English obviously is still the global communication cornerstone of international business. Yes, I'm speaking English to you. When we are talking English with each other. I do not decline that. But at the same time, the English literacy turns out to actually decrease, especially among the younger generations, as you can see here on the left. And at the same time, we also know that 76% of the people prefer to purchase products in their own language. So I understand that, because I can tell you a little story of me having moved to Spain recently, tried to basically decorate or basically make a way to live here quite well. So I was looking for blanket covers for my bed, and I found a nice local online store in Spain in Spanish. My Spanish is not very good, so I was happy they offered an English version of their store. And then I ordered a Nordic quilt, and I thought, okay, that's going to be great. Um, but surprise, surprise, in the end, um, what they delivered was not really what I was hoping to get, because I ended up with a second blanket instead of an actual blanket cover. Because if you translate it in, let's say, not a very good way, you very quickly can you can make a mistake with I wrote it down how to read it, Endredon Nordico, which translates into Nordic quilt, but actually into blanket, instead of Funda Nordica, which is the duvet cover, like the cover for the blanket. So this is how I ended up, due to language problems and not buying in my own language, with two blankets and no cover. Well, but let's make a quick poll, because yes, I love Slido, and I also brought some Slido in here, and I would love all of you, to scan this code and give me some answers. It's a quick one. Why don't you believe more companies adapt to different markets? And I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see. Join me. Join me. You should see the QR code. Ah, I'm getting answers. All right. Too much work and they don't have resources. What else? Well, okay, Google Translate. I see. Ah. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's not necessarily a perk of Slido, that you can't scan what you already have on your screen, right? Getting some answers here, that's great. I'm relentless. I need those answers. Okay. Okay. Can make a stop here. That's good enough answer. So what do we have? Too much work and they don't have resources. They don't know the ROI and they think people can use Google Translate. Fair enough. That's also how I sometimes try to do it in Spain. So let's get back to the presentation. No worries. There's going to be enough other Slidos as well. Get your phones ready. Basically, it all boils down to the misconception of cost, value, and complexity. And I think this is also kind of what we can agree on. It's one of them or all of them. And I understand it because if I see that 43% of companies who localize still rely on spreadsheets, yes, it's none of the good sides of all of those. It's not cheap. The value might also be problematic because you don't understand what you can leverage when you're doing it not necessarily the right way. And complexity, I get it. So if you're having an Excel sheet with 15 tabs and custom made macros and you're reliant on only one service provider whatsoever, this might be quite a frustrating and high effort endeavor. And yeah, then it's hard to argue for an actual ROI. We at Localize, obviously it's within our interest to get some learnings about this. We've done some digging and we created a report based on this. And we even shared a little QR code on the left if you're interested in this. Turns out that 63% of the companies attribute up to half of revenue growth to localization efforts, and 11% even more. It's a great number to let sink in. Furthermore, 51% of companies identify improved customer satisfaction as localization's primary benefit. There are other benefits, but that's the primary one. Your customers are going to be happier, including me, myself, when I'm trying to buy something in a store in hopefully German. I mean, I'm learning Spanish, but it takes time. And then we have Joaquin here from Life 360. That's the company who sells the tiles for tracking your wallet or your phone or other things. I do have two of those actually. So he and his team, they're working smart, not hard. I mean, they probably also are working hard, but that was not my point. My point is that he is working smart because he's doing it in a good way. He lets AI do the heavy lifting, and at the same time, he can also prove his impact. 39% year-over-year growth to their scale is empowered by his team's localization work. I would say that's good numbers. And we understand McDonald's got it. Big success, big company. All right, okay. So just to pinpoint a few other examples that are not necessarily McDonald's, I brought a few other examples with me here. Here we have Reddit on the right. For 20 years, they made the first time they made profit for the first time, mostly attributed to allowing customers to translate with AI the conversations. And I get it, because critical mass is getting all of a sudden solved because everyone can communicate with everyone, right? So that makes a lot of sense. Coca-Cola. In Europe, if you're looking at Coca-Cola cans or bottles these days, you probably are trying to find your name on it. I tried. I was not very lucky with this far. But you know where I had no chance finding my name whatsoever? For example, in Southeast Asia, in China. And from what I know, instead of offering the individual names of people on the Coke bottles, they actually tailored it more to the to the group understanding and to the group connection of groups. So it says something like best friend, and something like this. And then we have on the right, I'm traveling a lot. So when I went to Vietnam and I tried to find my next accommodation while I was there, I realized that somehow everything that I'm looking at is in Vietnamese, which was not a lot of fun. Turns out that there was this one specific toggle that I forgot turning on, and all of a sudden everything got translated for me. And the cool part about this is that the hosts themselves could offer and prepare all their like specifications on their offer, what they're trying you to understand, everything in their language, while at the same time I get the translations for myself in my language, so that we get a good connect on what they offer and what I'm trying to expect. So they connect customer and host in a very smart way, everyone in their native language. So a lot of examples. Another Slido. Let's have a look at this. How many of you are actually adapting your websites and products? Tell me. I'm gonna switch over to this tab. I want to see all your responses. That's true. You can just add the code. Take some time, join, don't be shy. There we go, got an answer. Maybe we get some more answers. Ooh. Okay. Some answers rolling in. That's interesting that most people say somewhat localizing and adapting to markets. Oh, well, the question is even localizing, right? Somewhat localizing. Last time I asked this question when I was presenting, it was like most of the people said yes, and second was somewhat. It makes me very curious what somewhat actually means. Maybe you can drop some messages in the channel. I would love to see what. Why do you say somewhat? Is it Google Translate or what is it? Okay. So somewhat. All right. Follow-up question. Now this is something that we can do in the channel because I don't have. I didn't want to have everyone just sitting on their phone right now. Follow-up question. Please answer in your chat. There is a delay. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Who of you actually enjoyed the process? Just give a plus or a me or whatever. Who of you enjoyed the process or was involved in the process and loved doing it? Good points. All right. Drop us a message if you enjoyed the process of localization. I'd love to hear about this. As a matter of fact, I would assume that a significant amount of people are not necessarily happy with the process of how localization has been done within their company. I know that because we're talking to a lot of companies as Lokalise, obviously, companies who are localizing. And I understand, especially when your process probably looks more or less like the process from Team Nebula. So this is a real customer that Lokalise started onboarding, and this is how their process looks like. I'm going to walk you through, no worries. So Team Nebula, I changed the name, but the data is real. First and foremost, they managed all their localization efforts through Google Sheets. And some might say there were more tabs than developers had in their Chrome after a deep dive session. Then they had a lot of files scattered like confetti, JSON and HTML files. And then the major challenge was to find the actual latest one. So they had an HTML file that had something called like master final. And then there were even some emails that you had to find like the attachments to. So this like they gathered it all together. They used one AI engine, obviously, ChatGPT. There was context. It was living in this Google spreadsheet. It was in tab 47, but only Ben knew about it. Ben, if you're here, you know what I'm talking about. It was in tab 47. No one knew about it. It was screenshots and everything, but I mean, it was there, I guess. And then there was like an endless common thread in the cell. I think in one of the tabs, there was like one cell and there was like a completely endless common thread where people ended up discussing the meaning of the word fun. Great. The rest of the conversations and comments actually happened in Slack. Try to onboard someone to this. The most fun part actually to the whole process was that on 11 p.m., 59 p.m., before the campaign day, the localization manager, champion, whoever was responsible that everything is translated, started copy pasting things into their CMS because on the next day it got to be done, got to be there and published. A lot of fun, I can tell you this much. So if this to some extent represents your process, chances are you're doing something wrong. And the hard truth is that your customers will find out on one way or another. So there are funny examples. For example, having moved to Spain, I noticed that the potatoes in Spain seem to be more brave than the German ones. Even though patatas bravas, it's a really good dish, but I think you could just translate it as patatas bravas. It's a national dish, eat it there. But obviously Google Translate or others, they wouldn't know how to translate this good. And then there are like a few examples that are less funny because they have direct business impact. If we have Italians in this channel, open question to you. Would you go into a store that sells American pies? I think Domino's had to learn their lesson, but it was not a fun one. And whoever likes playing games, there is another another tough example on the very left. I love playing games, so this one is dear to me. Where Hollow Knight, really nice game, came out with a sequel. And well, they had, let's say, some budget cuts on the Chinese translation. And that was the reason why the reviews on Steam for this game, particularly for this game, was in China, particularly really, really bad, especially in comparison to the other reviews in other countries. So this was a very painful one for a really good game studio because China obviously is a big market. Yeah, but the main question is, how can you actually convince your leadership team that localization is not just a cost center, but that it's actually a growth engine, right? Because that's what you want to be talking about. You want to make sure that you'll have ROI and that the effort that you put into it is not that much, especially in combination to the output that you're getting, to the outcome that you're getting. So worry not, because I came around with the answer, and that's something I'm particularly proud of bringing to you, because it's a little bit of a term that I introduced at Localize and happy to introduce to you as well. We call this the automagical localization. And in short, this is how it looks. Imagine your localization, it's like an engine, and it basically starts managing itself. And all you need to do is just quickly set it up at the beginning. And then it basically runs itself. And all you need to do is like maintain here and there a little bit to keep it running and keep it up to date. But in general, it's actually quite simple. And here you can see it in short, in a summary. And we're going to go step by step, going to go through this now so that you understand what exactly this process actually is going to look like. So imagine, for example, you have CMS like Storyblok, Contentful, or the others. And when you add content in there, this content can actually add itself to your translation management system. So it's something whether like with a workflow trigger or with a time sync or just automatically when content gets added, this can directly get defined as a trigger to import this content into the translation management system. That's where all the copy, all the text basically is gathered in there. But that's not where we stop, because we also, and that's like a very strong emphasis on this part, also the context needs to live in this little particular piece of software, because this is going to be the meaty part. We call this glossary that has like terminology that is especially important for your company. And you want to make sure that these things are getting translated the right way. Then you have translation memory. So this is like basically a strongly simplified a database of all past translations that you defined as being good translations. You just want to make sure that those don't need to be translated again. You have translations already for those type of texts. And then you also have style guide and other things that basically determine like how do you want to sound like and whatnot. You all want to have this in one system in one place, because AI comes around and can actually leverage all this context. So in this case, AI understands the terminologies, understands past translations, and understands the style guide that you've given it to, and can actually, and we all know these days already, that context is king for AI. So if your context for the AI is good, we have made significant learnings that AI is fairly good and extremely good actually in translations with all this context. But this is not where it ends, because we also learned that different type of engines are performing differently in different language pairs. So if you have English to Polish, for example, ChatGPT is specifically good, but if you translate Czech to Spanish, out of some reason why you want to be doing that, maybe Claude Code is better, or Claude is better, I mean. And then we also have other engines. Sometimes Google Translate is even better in some combinations. So imagine you'd have to do, if you want high AI translations done, you would have to do all this vetting. Obviously, when you have everything in one place, you don't have to do it. You just give it to a service and they take care of it. We call this internally a polyglot. We speak all the engines and we make sure that the translations are using the best in place for this combination. And this is not where it ends, because we have the translation memory, we have all this context, and we also notice that when we have, so to say, like a post-trained AI, the translations are getting even better up to human level. So this is like a huge gain in quality from AI that you can do when you give it the context, when you give it the right context. And this is still not where it ends, because the next step in the whole workflow is, imagine that your AI actually starts evaluating its own quality. In the localization industry, this is actually fairly standardized. It's called scoring these days, or AI LQA or LQA. It's linguistic quality assurance. And there are certain categories that you basically can give AI as a prompt and say, check the translations you've just done. And this can result in a specific score between, for example, 0 and 100. And you can say in your workflow that I just presented earlier, or that we're just going through here, that if the quality is less than 80% or less than 80 score, well, then we need the human in the loop. And there are moments where we definitely need a human in the loop, right? Someone who's like evaluating, is the translation good or not, but only for the cases where it really matters, where AI is not sure about, or where there's ambiguity in the translations because of certain contexts. And those cases, yes, you get them automatically sent over to a reviewer, to a translator, and they basically can review it. And whenever they're done, they can approve it and they can make it happen. Like this, in this process, we have already proven to decrease the costs and therefore also the need for human translation, so to say, which is like the hefty, pricey version, pricey part of the whole localization effort. Down to, I think, 10 or 20% of the overall. So you can significantly, like Joachim that I mentioned earlier from Life 360, he said 80%. He was being less bold than I am when I'm saying up to 90% of the translations don't need human review because it's just the same as before. It's fairly straightforward, and based on the context, you get AI to get those translations done as good as possible. So you're saving a lot in there. Not only money, but also time, because yes, AI is working 24/7 unless Claude is down again. But then we have backups, obviously. It's working 24/7, and it directly is like super duper fast. So you get translations based on your content, not within like days, but it's rather, we're talking hours, if even. And then you're done, because in this workflow, you can directly say, all right, publish when you're done, publish when everything is proofed. It directly goes back up to your CMS, to your product, wherever you have it, API access. Yes, you can do it. And then you automatically push it back into the product, into your CMS, and you get all the translations straight away. Like this, you don't get it in a week, but you get it rather in a day or two. So this might have been a little bit abstract. So I'm right now just quickly trying to run you through how this actually could look in a TMS, for example, in Lokalise, but yeah, I mean, in our case, for example, in Lokalise, when you, for example, using Storyblock as a CMS for your marketing or for your landing pages that you're making experiments for, but you also want to make this experiment in another country. If you're in the TMS, there is a marketplace. You find, for example, Storyblock, you find Contentful or other CMSs that you're using for building your web page, and you can just install it in here. So imagine this is your block in this case now, and we're talking about Mars. Okay, great. It's a great, let's see how long it takes until we're there. And then within the TMS, this is the workflow. You set up the workflow once and you define to let it run straight away. And this is basically where you see all the steps connect, right? So at the beginning, there's the trigger. At the end, there's the export, and in between, that's where the magic happens. We get the translations. We make the translations with the context informed, and then basically we have the routing, whether going to human review or not, based on the scoring and whatnot, and then automatically export that stuff. That's the magic. When everything is done, set up, I mean, you have the connection to, in this case, it's Storyblock. You basically, you can mark all the things that you want to get imported, that you want to have like continuously imported and whatnot. After the initial import, this is basically how it looks in an editor in a TMS. This is where you can see side by side on the left the original language, for example, English, that we have now in our blog, on the right in Spanish, because I want to get it into Spanish language. I would also see all the other languages on the right if I would want to. This is also where reviewers will basically work in when they have to review anything. It's a little bit small, but you probably can see the little green bubble in here. It says 100. Give it a little peek. So this is basically when the scoring looks good and AI is sure that everything is fine. In this case, we've been good. And if this number would be below 80 based on our workflow right now, then we would automatically create a task, and the reviewer that you assign for this language would automatically get an email with a link. Look at this. They look through. They make a little check mark that yes, this translation is good, or they change it and then make a check mark. Whenever they're done, you'll basically get a notification again. You go back to the screen, and you can export easy peasy lemon squeezy. Like this, yes, just export your stuff and all of a sudden you have it all in your store, ready to publish. Obviously, this was a simplified version. We do offer a free trial, so if you want, you can try it out, but didn't try to make too much advertisement for this. Just wanted to share the magic of magical localization. All right, I think that's a wrap. Ubi, back to you. I think we had a bunch of questions.
Thank you so much, Soren.
I also learned a lot of things about the fun with translators and everything.
A lot of people are here in the comments and they're talking about how I think the first thing that I see is someone asking that as a PM, localizing something, even with the workflow, is quite challenging. Do you want to take that as the first question?
What exactly is the question?
I am assuming that this is a small scale company and they don't have a localization team or a localization manager. So think that you're a PM and you're owning a product. How do you localize as a PM then using these workflows that you just talked about?
I think you need to start with like setting it up once, like what I mentioned earlier. You also need to understand how exactly you want to translate. Do you want to translate with AI primarily? Do you just want to translate it, or do you want to have very high quality? So you would have to make some thresholds. Overall, I think it is fairly easy these days to have a system that supports you, and really like I'm Localize is one of them. I can tell you that especially product localization is fairly straightforward. You need to work with your team together to get all the keys out and whatnot. There's like it's pretty standard these days to have public APIs if you want to push like this, and then based on API pushes, have a workflow set up for your case. So I think the main difference between the old way of getting translations done versus the new way of translations done is just really gather it up in one place, and then make sure that there is just once this little lifting of setting up the workflow, managing the in and outs and the golden in between. Internally, we call it gold in, diamonds out. If you set it up once, it will run, and then you can iterate over it. I mean, talking to product managers, right? Get an MVP out there. It's actually fairly easy, and there's a lot. Like just I've been in this myself for a startup, and also for a not startup localizing, and I can tell you that the moment we started sending around files, like JSON files or whatsoever, and in those there were all the texts inside, that's where things are just failing. And in the end, doing like investing one day and setting it up is going to be worth it. so I think that's my main point about it. Like invest like one day in setting it up, making it right. It's not heavy lifting, and then it can run more or less by itself.
I want to come back to this question of self-managing AI, but we have two or three more questions. I see a question by Marcos. And he's asking, how does AI manage the specific cultural aspects of translation when it comes to the target market? And when you're using it, do you consider language mainly or where it's intended to market to? So the cultural nuances, you briefly touched upon it.
It's an amazing question, and I can see, Marcos, you totally listened to what I was saying. That's amazing. So it goes two ways. Number one, it comes around with the assets. So when you're saying, for example, style guide, you want to make sure that you want to sound or you want to basically adhere to specific markets based on the style, so to say. So that's the one thing. And the other thing is you want to have it all in your hands still, right? So in this case, you add briefing to the translations, and this will actually help you get it done. Then there's the secondary aspect, and that's called transcreation. Um, that's basically exactly what you're mentioning as well, and that's something that the industry is going heavily into, where you basically give exactly this type of context and say like, and now please AI tailor to market tastes, so to say.
All right. There's another question around cultural nuances or cultural authenticity and the trade-off between speed and cost versus cultural authenticity. And how do you explain this or get buy-in from product leaders that this is also a brand advantage? Or a related question that I had was around growth. So what is the return on investment? Because whenever you go to a leader in your company, of course you have to tie things to ROI. You mentioned a few metrics in the beginning of the call, but in the new markets, are there any growth metrics that you can tie to localization and such?
I mean, if your tracking is right, fairly easy to understand the language people use. I mean, it's for example, you can see it straight away. Browser, and then you can measure the basic ones, right? The TARs, the retention, and whatnot. And then, I mean, if you're a shop, that's easier, obviously, because people purchase products in a certain language, so it's very easy to tailor to it. And then I think could also be a good if you really want to be like super duper precise, because yeah, there's the what if we didn't question, right? Like that's always the typical. I mean, I very much invite you to make an A/B test on this one. Offer half of your people can see it localized, the other ones cannot see it in their language. I promise you'll see a difference. uh, so I mean, that's a simple one. I would in order not to make it too hard for you to lose too much on the revenue and on the retention, make this experiment not run too long. I think it's going to be significant fast enough based on your on your on your traffic. But I think it will be fairly easy to understand this in any of your metrics that you're measuring. But make sure that you get the locale, that you get the place where people are actually from using your product from, right? So that's like in most of the analytics tools, it's already more or less built in.
All right. There are two more questions that I see on Slido. The first one is, how do you evaluate the AI's accuracy in languages you don't know? There's no in-house human checks available. And this brings us back to LQA score that you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's always a challenge to understand. Okay, it's like I speak German, I speak English, I learn Spanish right now, but what if I want to translate my webpage into, I don't know,
Japanese.
Japanese? All right, let's go with Japanese. To be honest, what I would be doing most probably, if I want to be really sure that the translations are really good, especially for the specific market, number one, add the scoring to your workflow. Absolutely and for sure, because the accuracy, it's one of the main points. And usually if there's an accuracy issue in the scoring, it scores way lower than it would without any accuracy issue. And AI is fairly good at understanding accuracy issues because it's, let's say, it does not necessarily come from from unclear ambiguity. You could say it this or that way. That's a rather easy detection, I would say. If you still want to make super sure that the quality is super high, it's always a trade-off, obviously. But there are good markets for hiring translators. But then again, because you have scoring, make sure that basically only the things where AI is unsure with a certain scoring, so to say, gets reviewed by a professional. And in the end, like yet again, to say this, yes, AI is creating good translations, especially with good context and whatnot. But there is always the human in the loop. There is a reason why evals are going big these days. And actually, that's the next level, is that your system is actually learning with the people reviewing the translations that AI wasn't sure about. And this is yet again improving the quality of your translations. Lokalise is offering already, or starts offering already, certain RAG models that learn from past translations and continuously from new, better translations, so to say. And that's also the way to go. So you probably initially pay a little bit more for translators to review, let's say 30% maybe, but then you very quickly get better and better because your AI keeps learning from past translations.
All right. There's another question around the regulated industries. So think fintech, health tech. How do we translate localize without risking compliance? And in health tech case, I mean, even severe consequences if it's not translated properly.
Yeah, that's a very tough one. So especially there, I would honestly be saying, how do you say? I think there are parts of the product that are less severe for translation. So I would distribute one and the other from the other. No, that's wrong English. Wait, I would split one from the other, and I would say, all right, I don't know, for example, certain parts of the product, UI elements and whatnot, those things can be, let's say, they're less risky, right? So those things I would want to have with, I don't know, for example, an 80%, an 80 score, or lower to get reviewed, human reviewed. But then there are also the things like the highly regulated ones, and especially in the beginning, without the confidence in AI, I highly recommend setting the threshold to 0, to 100, the other way around, so that basically, especially in the beginning, really everything gets reviewed by a professional, and then you train your AI on those, and then it also learns with more, how do you say, with the terminologies that you have, so you can build up quite a big amount of terminology, and this is yet again going to get used up from AI for good translations. But especially in the beginning, it's a very fair and good question. I would also be a little bit careful because with those highly regulated topics, I would split the difference.
I think I can ask one last question, and that is around how much time does it take, or how many rounds of translations for the AI's system to understand and learn those cultural nuances. And like when you're talking about, hey, the AI can learn from the translator if you don't know the language yourself, what is, like, is this something that is still people are figuring it out, people like you who are building the localization systems with AI? Or are we at a good point where we can say, hey, this is the average run of the mill that we can give to AI, and then we can trust it?
That's a wonderful question, Ubi. So I think we're fairly confident these days that it's actually needing surprisingly little context. The quality increases very, very quickly in the beginning. So when we're talking, for example, it's learning from translation memory as an example. So past translations. I think ballpark, maybe our the other product manager who is specifically on this area will cut off my hair my head when I'm saying it. Like, but ballpark, I think we're talking like if you have 200 past translations that are actually used as context for that language pair, right? Like that's important. Um, I think then you'll already get significant increase in quality. So it's like surprisingly early, you'll get better. Let's say it like this. And then it's a lot of obviously building up more confidence yourself, because that's something that we've noticed more and more, that it's not necessarily about the quality of AI itself, but it's about the quality of your context that you give it to. You know, simple in, out. I know we're on YouTube, so I'm trying to beep it. So if you give it bad context, this is going to have this is going to impact your translation quality, of course, as well. So you want to make sure that the context you give it to is actually of high quality,
So
and that's
context
context is king.
king. Context.
Absolutely, yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
So
With that, I see that there are no further questions on our chats or any other platforms. I think I also will give Slido one last look. Someone is asking how inclusive is Localized with different languages, and I am. This is a question from Nigeria. If you want to take that, Soren.
I would say the question is about how many
Language
languages
I
does
support.
Localize offer.
Yeah.
So from what I know, I think we do have a limitation on let's say really supported languages. In general, Localize is offering I think up to 200 different languages. AI I think is not does not offer all of them, but I would be lying if I would give you a number right now. But from what I know, I think we're actually offering a lot. So it's worth checking out. It's all, I think, publicly documented. Feel free to check it out. In like, I think the only limitation is on scoring. That is not fully available in all languages. AI, I think, is doing quite a good job already in most of them. Yeah, but it's all public. Figure it out. You can find it.
All right. With that, thank you so much, Zoran. As a reminder, these are some of the few use cases that you can engage us with. We offer interim fractional product management services, product operations, transformation acceleration. These are some of our B2C clients, some of our B2B clients, and we have 60% women in our leadership. We are 40 plus product managers and product leaders in house. And we have supported so far almost 700 teams. Zoran's team was one of them. Thank you once again for joining us. And if you want to subscribe to our newsletter, you can scan the QR code on the right. And if you are looking for a job, we are always open. You can scan the QR code on the left. Next week, we will be here at the same time with a different talk and a different speaker.